Welcome into the Behind the Frenzy podcast. I'm your host, Dean Holzwarth, joined again by Andy McDonald.
How we doing, Dean?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Just another week, but I mean, now we're actually to the last week, so it's a reality at this point.
Last week of the regular season, we stayed dry again on Friday, so I did not jinx anybody.
I did. I wore pants this week. I did not wear shorts. So that was I broke the streak, and Jack gave me crap about it today when I came in. He said, "You should have just toughed it out. You could have totally done it," and he was right. It wasn't that cold. I had the little hoodie thing on up top. That was definitely necessary, but because it did get cold and the sun dropped.
Yeah. Don't tell me I didn't notice that. Like, I just saw you had pants, and I was going to say something to you. I had a listener reach out to me and say, hey, I hope you don't jinx us the last 2 weeks. And so I saw a 50% chance for this Friday.
Oh, boy.
So hopefully we can stay dry again.
All right, yeah.
I mean, it's still golf weather.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's crazy. I played this past weekend, and it was awesome. So can't complain about when it's like this time of year.
No. So let's talk about some conference championships first of all right now, Andy.
Sure.
A lot of them were kind of sewed up this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the first one we can talk about is Northview and the OK Black.
Yeah.
First conference title since 1970.
That's crazy. And the fact that they were able to go undefeated as well is just unbelievable. I don't think anybody could have seen that coming from the start of the season. Ryan Oshnak, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but Oshnak, yes. What an impressive year for him to be able to turn that program around and bring them where they're at right now. He got recognized by the Lions a week ago to be the coach of the week, so people are noticing Northview, and they deserve it with the way they're playing right now. So I'm excited to see what they can do when the postseason comes around. Obviously, still got one more week of the regular season, but yeah. Yeah,
anytime you can beat Catholic Central and East Grand Rapids in the same season, and then obviously an up-and-coming team like South Christian, who they had to kind of pull away from last week to win a conference, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's not like some people will point to the fact that Catholic Central didn't have their best year or whatever. To me, it's don't take anything away. Like, I think that maybe this could be more of a norm that some of these teams are like this. I mean, it's just been, like we've talked about all year, there's been so much more parity than any year that I've covered here, so it's a lot different. I mean, we're having a harder time thinking of who's going to make it to Ford Field because we haven't seen a lot of these teams go this far. So no, it's really exciting, and Northview deserves all the credit in the world for doing as well as they have this year.
Definitely.
I mean, 1970, that is a long time ago.
That's older than me.
Yeah, right.
By a few years. So, OK Gold, Unity Christian continued their kind of dominance, winning last week against. Who did they beat last week?
It's a good question.
Oh, they beat Zeeland East. 56-14.
Which is a good win.
To kind of sew that up. They finished, obviously, at 5-0. Zeeland West finished the game behind at 4-1. And then Forest Hill Central, Zeeland East, South Christian were in there as well. A tough non-conference game for Unity Christian this week. I think a really good test going into the postseason against Pontiac Notre Dame.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Unity so far this year they've scored 37 or more points in all but one of their games, and they've held teams to they haven't allowed more than 21 points yet in a game this year. So it shows what they can do on both sides of the ball. But I think their offense is like the most exciting thing, and now you get a final tune-up against a really good opponent this weekend. I think it's definitely one of those teams we're going to be looking at to see if their offense can carry them to Ford Field, which, I mean, the last time that happened, they had a pretty crazy ending. So I'm sure that they are eager to see what they can do. Probably not looking ahead. I'm sure they would tell us. But at the end of the day, that has to be in the back of anybody in that coaching staff that was there at the time on their mind. That's for sure.
Yeah. If we look at a couple of the conferences we just talked about, a key non-conference game coming up this week is South Christian and Catholic Central.
Yes.
We are kind of referred to Snooze to You website today. This website gives kind of predictions of who's going to make the playoffs. It gives playoff points, everything like that. So right now, the way this is predicted for Division 4 is South Christian does make the postseason, and they would play Uni Christian first game. However, if South loses to Catholic Central, they finish 3-5 or what was it? Yeah, they finished losing their last 5 games in a row.
Wow, that's how
that's
do you put
not guaranteed.
Yeah, how do you put somebody in like that? It's crazy that we're even talking about anything like that with the way the year started. You know?
Right, the way we talked so much about South Christian and Carson Viss, and we talked about the tough conference they were in.
You could not talk about it. I mean, he was winning them games, it felt like, and it was just like it was that impressive. And the fact anybody that loses 5 games in a row at the end of the season, you're supposed to be playing your best football at the end of the season,
Right.
kind of justifies them not making it if they didn't make it. So I'm sure they know what's on the line. And Catholic Central is not. It doesn't matter what the record is this year. In a scenario where they need to win, Todd Coastal will have his guys ready.
Yes.
That's going to be tough for them to get the job done. That's for sure.
Yeah, 3 losses so far for Catholic Central this year. Obviously a rarity.
Yeah.
If you look at the last 15 years, it doesn't happen around.
They
Catholic
challenge
Central.
themselves to some tough games too.
They have. They have
for sure.
And South Christian, obviously no slouches. Their losses. We look at they lost to Forest Hill Central. They lost to Zeeland East. They lost to Unity Christian, and then they lost to Zeeland West.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one concerning part to me is they lost each of those games by double digits.
Yeah, no,
well,
by a lot.
except for the Zeeland East game, they lost by 7. But all the other ones,
It was noticeable.
it wasn't close.
For sure. And I'm not sure if you've heard anything else, but obviously we talked about a few weeks ago if Carson was hurt or not.
Mhm.
Still don't really know anything about that injury. I'm sure maybe he's playing through something, maybe he's not. But I just have to wonder, how do you start that well? Not just him specifically, but their team.
Yeah.
How do they start that well and then kind of go where they're at right now? It's unexplainable, really.
Oh, yeah, definitely is. We look at the OK Red, Hudsonville.
Mm-hmm.
First conference championship since 2004.
Yeah.
Very great season for them. They played really well since
Unbelievable.
losing that opening round game. And, it's a team that I feel can possibly make a deep run in the postseason.
For sure. I mean, beating Caledonia again, another good program by double digits last week. Obviously, the win against Rockford earlier this year was I feel like that was like a point where it was like, oh, okay, we're starting to notice Hudsonville, and we got to pay attention to them now. I mean, yeah, since 2004, they haven't won a state title either. So, I mean, it would obviously mean the world for them to get back. Tough division to do it in, but right now they're playing as well as anybody. So,
yeah, speaking of the OK Red, we are looking at a possible winner go home scenario, if we can really say that, in the OK Red with Granville and Caledonia.
mm-hmm.
Granville right now is 4-4. Caledonia's 4-4. Projections right now have Granville making the playoffs, but I think the loser of this game.
Yeah, you got to imagine if Caledonia gets by them, they would make it over them. I don't see how you would justify it any other way. It probably feels like a playoff game for them going into it. I'm sure they're going to talk about it all the way this week. I mean, Granville is one of those teams that also challenge themselves a lot to start the season. And I mean, they're a good team, but 4-4 is 4-4. And when you're playing against another team with an even record as you probably know what it's going to all be for going into the game.
Yeah, that tough schedule could come back to bite Granville
a little bit,
in the end.
for sure. And I'm sure some of these teams are figuring that out more and more. I mean, I know it might be worth more points. Again, this is so new. I don't know how the out-of-state teams factor in, if it does at all, to giving them more points. But it's just it's definitely records like we haven't seen in past years for a lot of these teams. Now, I mean, Granville wasn't a team that was dominating, going undefeated every year, but I'm sure the record would be different if they played a couple teams from around here that weren't as good. So
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Okay, Green, Byron Center with a big win over Muskegon.
Mm-hmm.
In that game, they won 17-14, but needed a kind of a goal line stand in the final seconds to kind of preserve that win.
Yeah, Muskegon playing for everything that right now. It's obviously they're kind of the talk, I feel like, of around our area a little bit, just in the negative way. It's almost like the Jets in the NFL. It's like everybody talks about them even though they're not winning right now.
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing with Muskegon, just in a different way, because they have made the playoffs for so many years in a row. And they just, I can't believe we're actually talking about this right now, but they probably at the outside looking in. We were kind of talking about this before this started today. Even if they do get the win this weekend against a good out-of-state opponent, isn't it Archbishop Moeller?
I think it was, they go to Cincinnati to play Moeller.
Yep. Even if they get that win, I still don't know if it's enough. You got to imagine it's a lot of points. That team's 8-1.
Yeah.
But for them to get the win would be pretty crazy if the way their seasons went. It just seems like they haven't been able to come up big enough when they needed it in a lot of these games. They've been close in a couple.
Yep.
They just haven't been able to get the touchdown to get them over the hump to win. And I think ultimately it's going to come back to bite them this year, and I think we're going to experience our first postseason without them for the first time in a while.
1999.
Yeah.
Last time.
It's crazy. Shane has such a good program over there. I have all the respect for him in the world. And I'm sure it's tough for him right now because I don't think he would have thought this either. But it's, again, they had a weird year. They didn't play an opponent one week, and they've had some pretty tough games themselves. So, yeah, I'm sure they're going to give it all they have this weekend, and I expect nothing less out of that program because they do it every time they take the field. But definitely a weird year for them.
Yeah. Byron Center was hoping to get a share of the conference title. However, Mona Shores shut out Muskegon Reese Puffer 40-0 to kind of definitely clinch the outright in there.
In the past, you would have said that Reese Puffer might have made that game close, but Mona is just that dominant this year. I wanted to ask you about them, actually. I mean, I think that they're the best lock to make it to Ford Field out of any of our teams in this area.
I definitely
Do you feel that way, too?
Yeah, I definitely think they have as good a chance as anybody in that division.
For sure.
Both sides of the ball, really good defensively. Obviously, they have a really good offense that can score points, opportunistic as far as takeaways, things like that. So I definitely think that they have a really, really good chance to go to Ford Field, and we'll see what this postseason, has for us.
Yeah, no, every opponent they've played this year, they've beat by double digits except one. So they've been that dominant. I find it hard to believe they're going to slow down going to the postseason. So, yeah, I expect to see Mona Shores at Ford Field.
Another team we kind of talked about having the opportunity is West Catholic. They won the OK White Conference last week with a win. Forest Hills Eastern finished runner-up at 4-1. West Catholic 6-2. Forest Hills Eastern 6-2. I think West Catholic's Division 5. Forest Hills Eastern Division 4. But what do you think about this West Catholic team?
No, they're exciting. I think it says a lot. We were just talking a couple weeks ago about how Landon Grove hasn't had a team that's lost 3 games yet. They were able to avoid that by beating Forest Hills Eastern in that close game. I think they're going to point back to that when they're in the postseason, because that was a big game for them to get over. Probably give them a lot of confidence going forward if they have to play in close games. I think West Catholic is a team that could make it there. I think if they can get past Catholic Central, if they have to play them in the postseason, I think that'll be. It always is a good game. It's been a tough one for West in the past, but it just says a lot about the program that Landon's got going over there. I have a lot of respect for him. Good guy every time I've talked to him. And it just seems like they are just way more focused on winning than they were even 3-4 years ago, which when I was in high school, West Catholic was, that was like 10 years ago now. West Catholic was a lot. You expected them to go to the state finals every year, and they kind of got away from that. I think Landon has changed that program to being where they're at now. And even in a year where they might not have it all, they've been pretty good this year. So,
and I think we see a theme here for the final regular season game is teams playing competitive teams to kind of gear up for that first week of the playoffs. West Catholic has Zeeland West this week. So those 3 losses are obviously in play.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet, but I mean that's going to be a game that's going to challenge them, but I'm sure it's the kind of game they're excited to play, knowing that program, just going into that game, because it gets them ready for the postseason.
Yes, definitely. Excuse me. So we have some games. So that's kind of a rundown of the of the OK Conference. The one remaining OK Conference that has yet to be decided is the OK Silver, which is one of our spotlight games, and we'll kind of roll into the spotlight games right now with 2 familiar favorites in the OK Silver through the years. Hopkins at Belding.
Yeah, every time you hear those 2 names, it feels like in that conference when it comes down to this time of the year. And I mean, that's just the kind of programs that win. So I would expect nothing else but a good game. It's one of those ones that's like hard to pick. I don't really know who's going to win that game. That's for sure.
And if you look at the all-time series, they've played 20 times, and Belding has won 11 of those games. So 11-9 in the all-time series.
It's just so even. I mean, every year they're both so good. They both have fan bases that take a lot of pride in high school football and want to watch. So it's definitely one to look for this weekend. But I mean, 11-9 says it all.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like who's going to win. That's exactly why it's a spotlight game.
Yeah, I would give the edge to Belding a little bit. They won the past 2 conference titles. They haven't lost an OK Silver game since 2021, and they have scored 47 points or more in 6 of their 7 wins this year. For
sure. And it's at home, somewhere they're comfortable. So, I mean, that works to their favor as well. So,
yeah. Hopkins coming off an 18 loss to Decatur last week. I think you were there. Obviously, not the kind of game, I think, if you're looking at Vikings fans, that you want going into a big conference showdown.
No, for sure. They didn't have their best game. Their offense could not get it going at all. When I got there, it was 6-0, and they really weren't able to get anything. It was 18-0 when I left. So, they have a good defense, and they keep themselves in the game. They're on the field so much that it was just tough. And Decatur had, I forget the kid's name now, but the running back they had was phenomenal. He had 2 interceptions on defense, and he scored all 3 touchdowns. So, he was pretty good. So, they had a tough time stopping him. I don't know if they're going to run into anybody like that on Belding's team, but
Okay, next spotlight game. We have Cedar Springs at Coopersville. first year of the River Cities Alliance after leaving those schools leaving the OK conference. 3 teams right now tied at 4-1 in that conference. Lowell, if they beat Greenville, they can win a share of it. But Cedar Springs and Coopersville, whoever wins, can win a share as well.
For sure. I mean, you just said it's first year in that conference. I mean, what do you think of it so far with it being that competitive? Like, good idea? Was it not the right move?
That's probably what they maybe were hoping for.
Yeah.
Right? It was a very competitive conference, and to have something like this come down to the end.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, different reasons with athletic directors and everything of why they left.
Yes.
But yeah, this is kind of, a couple teams obviously are going to be able to share that conference title, and there's been a lot of really good games in that.
Not to like validate either side of that argument. It's just, I mean, like it has turned out to be competitive. So
yeah,
that was obviously not all the reasoning behind this decision, but I think it definitely proved to at least be competitive and that these teams can all play with each other.
Yeah.
I kind of expected it to go that way. And I think it'll keep going that way in the future, but you got to love it when you're at the end of the season and it leads up to games like this.
Oh, 100%. And, you look at that. I mean, Sparta and Allendale have kind of struggled this year. Greenville, Sparta, Allendale kind of struggled in that conference. But Kennewood Hills, what do you think about Kennewood Hills? 5-3 right now.
Yeah, they're an exciting team. It's Don
and
Fellows.
They play Sparta to finish up the regular season.
Mm-hmm. They're exciting. That Don Fellows, wherever he goes, teams have won. So, obviously, a lot went on in his offseason. There's a lot of controversy there. But I don't think he let it carry into his program. I don't think he let it carry on the field with him. And he has got those kids playing. I mean, I used to go to Kennewood Hills, so we never had football teams that were that good when I was there.
Right.
So to see them playing as well as they have and win some of the games they did, I mean, I think it was against Coopersville. They put a lot of points.
It was 40-some points.
Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to cover them since the first week, but no, it's very impressive. I know his son is the quarterback, and he's done well this year as well. I mean, seems like they have the culture going in the right direction there, and I mean, I'm happy for him for sure. Graduating from there, it's good to see Kennewood playing well.
Yeah, and Cedar Springs, obviously a traditional powerhouse for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a couple down years, losing season last year. They were 5-5 in 2022, but kind of back to the way that Cedar Springs kind of plays football.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. I mean, they're in this kind of game. They made it to this kind of game, and it's good to see them there.
Yep. Coopersville, another solid season. They lost, obviously, Kennewood Hills, as we mentioned, Big Rapids. But that's another team that has been playing well and has the guys to go out and perform well.
Past few years, they've been pretty good.
Yeah.
And they've found a way to be competitive every season. So, yeah, I'm sure it means a lot. I know that place when you go to it on a Friday night is packed. So,
yep.
Yeah, they have a good fan base. They have big fan base that follows them. So, it's exciting to see them playing for something like this.
Yeah, obviously, I think kind of our first time, talking about Coopersville a little bit, but this is their 100th. They've been celebrating all season long, their 100th year of football.
Wow. That's
Coopersville.
A fun fact of the day right there. You learned something. Dean, you're teaching me something because I did not know that. But you learn something new every day here, especially on the podcast. So.
I find all these little tidbits, here and there. So you got to be prepared sometimes to throw those little nuggets in there.
Absolutely.
To let our listeners kind of like, oh my, I didn't know that.
This is their 100th year?
Yeah.
100th year. Okay, wow.
100th year.
That's exciting.
Celebrating 100 years of Coopersville football.
Awesome.
So last spotlight game takes us to the Wolverine Conference. Niles at Paw Paw.
I think it's another one that we're like a little maybe surprised to have as a spotlight game to end the year, but it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's two teams that have been going at it all season, and I expect this one to be just as good as any of the ones we just mentioned. I mean, they know what's on the line, and it should be a good one.
Yeah, it's very interesting when I was looking at the conference and looking at these two teams. Let me bring it up real quick.
You're okay.
So this is kind of crazy. So Niles has scored 292 points this year, only given up 27 points. Well, Paw Paw has scored 262 points and only given up 26 points. So two obviously stout defenses separated by 1 point, combined 53 points they've given up to 16 opponents this year.
That is insane. I mean, like 20. I mean, well, we covered a game a couple weeks ago with Montague, and that was 70-64.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like more than quad that total score. So yeah, that's really impressive by both those defenses. I think it says a lot when you can be that dominant in your division. That's the reason you're playing for games like this.
Yeah, I think we can expect a low-scoring game in that game.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's pretty safe to say when their offenses like that, they probably know each other well enough too.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're like well prepared for this game. I mean, God, I can't get over that. 26 and what? What was the other
26 and 27, separated by 1 point.
That is insane. That is crazy to
Yeah,
hold teams that. I mean, we've had years where we've seen people like shut out a lot of opponents and have really low scores. I don't know if I've ever seen that low. I really don't.
Niles has shut out 4 of their 8 opponents so far, but it's actually been pretty. Actually, let me go back because I'm showing you the wrong thing here.
Okay.
And I'm always going to be accountable for my mistakes.
No, so we're
on
learning
this
something
podcast.
new here.
Yes, we are learning something new. Let me go back. So 27, 26 points is what they've given up in conference.
Got it.
However,
okay.
However, let's backtrack here. So in their 8 games, Niles has given up only 57 and Pawpaw 55.
I mean, regardless, it's we're nitpicking there either way. If you guys are watching, you should appreciate this guy's honesty. So
right,
goes back and make sure he gets it right.
You make a mistake,
that's impressive right there. But no, I mean, mistake. The conference games are, I guess, what matters at this point anyway for what they're playing for.
Yeah.
Assuming that a lot of those teams are, similar to them. So, well, not similar in their dominancy, but like they play each other every year. So,
right.
It's definitely impressive. 50 points, 20 points, doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's a really, really low number. That's why I did have to say I don't think I've ever heard of a high school team like holding anybody 26, 27
Yeah.
for the whole season. I was like, that's got to be some kind of record.
But
50s has still got to be close.
However, that's in 6 conference games. The 26 and 27 points given up are in 6 conference games so far.
Wow.
Because that conference has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams.
That's impressive.
So it's not like it's a smaller conference.
So they play only 2 non-conference games then?
Yes.
Okay, that makes it even more impressive that they held them to that many points. I mean,
yeah,
you do the math there on 7 games. Well, yeah, right now it'd be 6 games they played so far. So
6.
divided
Both
by
teams 6 and
20,
0.
whatever it is not a lot of points. I can tell you that much. So
yes, I think Pawpaw has the biggest motivation here.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna be their first undefeated regular season in 2012. But last year they lost to Niles twice. They lost in the playoffs, and they lost during the regular season. So Niles ended their season last year, gave them both their losses last year, and now they can kind of, go for.
What else do you need for motivation? I mean, that says it all right there. If you're able to end somebody's season, I think that 2 years in a row too. That sticks in your mind for a long time. So I'm sure they're ready to go.
Yep. Okay, well that's going to wrap things up. Good luck to all the teams competing here in the regular season finale. We're very much looking forward to the postseason beginning next week.
Absolutely, and we hope that you guys learned something new today too. So.
Yes. All right. Take care. See you next week. Bye.